Mr. Huff here, and today we're going to look at some basics of putting an assembly together. So, starting from your home screen, you need to make sure you are in the right project folder. If you're in Playgrounds, go ahead and change to Puzzle Cube for this example. And you can see in my recent documents here at the bottom of the screen, I have several puzzle cubes that I've put together for this example. And what we want to do is assemble those now. So what we're going to do on the top left, we'll press New. Going to make sure we're using the English template. And in the second row of file types here, you'll see standard.iam. This is a standard assembly in inches. That's the one we want to use, so double click that. And it will open up the assembly screen. It looks a lot like the part screen, but the tools are very different. So what we do now is we want to place our first part. And in my puzzle cube design, the green block is the one that's at the bottom. So I want to use it as my first part. So I double click the green block to open, well, not double click, I open the green block. And now I can see it wants to put the green block somewhere. So I just click anywhere. And you can see that it placed the part. And you also see a shadow of another part that you can place. So you could keep placing this. If you needed 16 of these, you would just keep clicking, but I don't. So I'm going to press escape, and now I'm out of that mode. So I have this one part. This is really important. You have to ground your first part. This is like a reference point for your assembly. If you don't, you're going to be very confused because parts are going to not behave like you expect. So we're going to right click on your first part and look through this list until you see the word grounded. If you have 2017, you may see something about base plate, but we in 2016 we see the word grounded, so we're going to choose grounded. And what that does is it calls this green part the first part, and it's also going to be stuck in a position in space. Everything else will move in relation to this part. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is place the second part. The one that makes the most sense in my design is the red cube, so I choose the one I want to bring in, and I click on open. And now you can see I have a red part, and I'm just going to click anywhere and then click escape. And now I need to think about how this is going to connect to this green part. And you can see it doesn't really keep you from like sliding things through each other. So you couldn't really go in here and try to match those up perfectly. You're going to be very frustrated by the time you get done. So what we have to do is apply some constraints because these two parts fit together in a very specific way. So I'm going to move this more to the center and zoom in a little bit. And I know in my puzzle piece, these the face here and this green piece are connected. So let's look at the kinds of constraints we can use. Click on constraint, and you will see right here we have two kinds of constraints that we're going to be using today. The first one is called mate, and the second one is called flush. What mate does is it takes two faces, and those two faces always have to be on the same plane with one another. They don't necessarily have to be in contact, but they have to be aligned. I will try to explain this in class with some cardboard boxes. But those two will, so we're going to use that one first. So I choose that, and now I need to pick the faces that are going to mate. So on the red piece, I know that this face, you see how it's got the little arrow there? This face and the face on the green cube, I'm going to uh, rotate my diagram here a little bit. And this face, those two are going to go together. So I click apply and click, and then I can close that. So what that means is now if I move the red piece, it's always going to be in line with the green piece, even though you can't see it. If I rotate it here a little bit, you will be able to see that those faces are lined up. You see how they're parallel to one another on exactly the same plane. All right, so that's one face. Another thing on this diagram, uh, the red block here and the green block here have to be flush. So here's the other kind of constraint we're going to use. So I click on the flush constraint, and I want the top of this block and the top of this block to be parallel, okay, or flush with each other. And if I rotate now, you can see that the tops of these two pieces let's see if we can get that where we can see it better. Okay, so you can see the top of the left piece and the top of the green piece are now connected together. The other thing, so I need a third constraint to pull the pieces together. And in this puzzle piece, let me rotate it a little bit and zoom out a little bit. I am going to add a constraint, a mate constraint to this side. And now I'm going to rotate around and move this out of the way. This side and this piece are also mated. And I click apply and I can close this. Now you can see the two puzzle pieces are connected the way they're supposed to be according to my design. All right, so I'm going to click home and you can kind of see what's going on there. So if I rotate around the cube here, you can see that those two pieces are arranged the way they're supposed to be. So really, that's the basics of the process. You just keep adding in all of your puzzle pieces and connecting them until you have your full cube constructed.